Let's talk about the video package, speaking of Hunter, building up Shawn and Hunter here. They show some clips from 1997 with DX, and then they show Shawn coming back in 2002 with the DX shirts and the skit. And ultimately, that sets up the pedigree where Triple H gets to turn on his best friend, Shawn Michaels. And there's a great line from Hunter in this package here. I used Shawn to get to the top just like he used me to stay at the top. I thought this was one of the more well-done packages that were on the pay-per-view. What did you think of the package and the angle to bring Shawn in? And then we'll talk about the behind the scenes.
I thought the package was excellent, and I thought the angle was excellent because it was logical, and everybody can understand jealousy, and everybody can understand a friendship and a bond getting broken up like that.
The video of someone jumping Shawn from behind and then putting his head through a window, the bloody aftermath, and then the reveal from Shawn enhancing the video and then challenging Hunter to a match at SummerSlam, this feels like, you know, exactly what Vince was talking about in Beyond the Mat. We make movies. What did you think of the whole jumping Shawn Michaels, head through the rental car, enhancing the video, the big, great reveal? I thought it was some of the better storytelling, even if it was a little predictable.
Well, here's what you have. You have a guy that we didn't know what we really had in him in Shawn Michaels. This is going to be his one-off, the only match we're going to do. We couldn't do a whole lot physically with him prior to that. So you can't have him work a match on TV. You got to get creative in how you get him involved. And we didn't want the audience to see them have that physicality. So, yeah, you got to get creative and get out there with your storytelling. And I thought that it was beautifully done. And again, especially for us, because we had no idea what the hell we had.
Let's kind of talk about the backstage here, because I think everybody knows we're going to cover this at some point long form. DX has been on the pole 9,000 times, and they lose every time, but I'm hopeful that they'll win eventually. But the story with Shawn Michaels and Triple H and DX is a fun one. It's been well documented. We'll get there eventually. But Shawn ultimately becomes injured at the Royal Rumble 1998 in a casket match against The Undertaker. He goes over the top, waxes back on the edge of the casket, and supposedly this causes all kinds of back problems. That leads to a rather interesting first quarter in the WWE as we build towards WrestleMania 14. Shawn is not in a good place mentally, physically, or emotionally, storms out of the press conference, and he's gone. And now this is going to be his first match back in the WWE. He has some trials and tribulations personally while he's out. He finds God. He turns his life over. He also had struggled with addiction. There's rumor and innuendo that he showed up under the influence to a WWE show once and kind of showed his ass. And Triple H even tried to put him in his place and actually, according to the rumor and innuendo, take your pills, Bruce, tries to have Shawn removed. What can you tell us about the time in between? Because I think most people know that Shawn said he was done with wrestling, never coming back, does things that are uncharacteristic of Shawn. He does an RF video shoot interview. He opens a wrestling school. Thank goodness he did. We got, Bryan Danielson out of it. And in an effort to build his own promotion, actually works a match that I think people have forgot that went down in April of 2000 for the Texas Wrestling Alliance against Paul Diamond. What was going on in the downtime? Did he really get kicked out of an event? What was the relationship like with Shawn and Vince during this 4-year gap? What was it like with Paul and Shawn, to the best of your understanding?
From my vantage point, there was not a whole lot. I don't remember Shawn getting kicked out. That's totally news to me. Maybe it happened. I have no idea. I wasn't there. Don't remember that. I do remember from time to time when we would be in San Antonio or maybe Austin that Shawn would come by and say hello. That's where Undertaker and I nicknamed him the little Dutch boy when he cut all his hair off, and he had kind of a bowl cut. And we didn't even know who the hell it was when we saw him. He had stopped training. He got way out of shape. I had gone down because Shawn had started his wrestling school. So the only interaction that I had with Shawn during that time was, hey, do you have any talent?
Right.
Got anybody that we might want to take a look at? I'd really love to come down and spend a weekend with you and see what you've got. So at first I was met with, no, none of my guys are ready yet. And then eventually he warmed up to the idea, and I went to San Antonio. Shawn picked me up and went over to the house, and then we went to a show. And then the next day we went out and saw his training class with Rudy Gonzalez there. There was Spanky, Brian Kendrick. There was obviously Daniel Bryan. There was Lance Cade, and I want to say there were 4 total. I can't remember the 4th one. But he had some really good talent there. And we talked back and forth, and Shawn would get in the ring with these guys. He wouldn't take bumps, but he would show them little things. And I remember after watching him in the ring training these guys, we went to a town that night where he had a little spot show. And I said, man, you know you've got another one in you. He said, nope, I've wrestled my last match. I'm done. And I said, they all say that, but I'll use the old bruiser and crusher analogy. All you've got to do is go out there and give them the entrance and kick and punch and throw a super kick, and they're going to be happy. His mindset was that if Shawn Michaels is going to appear, he has to be Shawn Michaels.
Right.
He's got to be the showstopper. He's got to be the main event. He has got to be the guy they remember, not a fragment of that guy. So he had no desire. He's like, I'm done. I'm not training anymore. And I remember he was eating a huge chocolate chip cookie. And he says, I'm eating chocolate chip cookies. He says, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not going back in the ring. And then eventually, I don't know, 6 months after that is when he had the street fight that he had in San Antonio for his own promotion. And he was cleaning up his act. We'd heard that he was doing a lot better. He came down and saw us in San Antonio and looked great, completely different than when I had been down and seen him in San Antonio before that. Floated the idea out there. You got one more? Just one. And that's how we got here. Just floated it out there. And he said, yeah, he trusted Hunter and felt that he and Hunter could have a match, but they wanted to do a street fight so that he would be forgiven and not have to go out and have that Shawn Michaels wrestling match.
So was the idea always to just do the one story here with Triple H and that be it?
Yep, 100%. One match, one time. This is it. He's not coming back. Not going to get another one. This is it.
Any sort of heat that you recall at all between Shawn or Hunter here?
At this point, no. No, at this point, they were excellent. Long lost buds. Happy to be back together.
Hebner's the referee here, and he has a big part in the match where he admonishes Triple H for his behavior. It's not something that we see very often in a match, and it was weird kind of seeing him here because Hebner was such a staple in the WWE, and now not so much. You were there when Hebner was, exiled. Briefly tell us what happened there. We've never talked about it on the show before.
We were in, somewhere in West Virginia or something like that. I can picture the building. I don't remember the particular name, but there was some kind of story that allegedly Dave and Earl had been selling bootleg WWE merchandise, and they were released. It's one of those stories that has never been told from really either side. And people put, it's all rumor and innuendo. What I just told you, we weren't we weren't told. We got that surmised from Earl later on that's what they were accused of doing.
There's rumor and innuendo out there that the Hebners, were actually doing a bit of an embroidery type business, a screen printing business, and they were making WWE logo and branded swag, but actually giving it to the boys, including the McMahons themselves.
That is true.
So the allegation is they weren't just doing it to hook up the cast and crew. They were doing it to profiteer as well, and that's what Vince had a problem with.
Well, and apparently, and again, this is all
rumor and
innuendo, was that whoever had the shop in St. Louis or Kansas City, wherever the hell they were, was selling stuff out of his shop. And
that they had made unlicensed without letting the WWE participate.
Right. And that's where the rub came. And because Dave and Earl were associated with them, that was the last straw, and they were gone. It was quick. I mean, it was they came in and left and were escorted out by security.
Did you think that was a fair way to handle them, given their time with the company?
I don't know all the particulars, but it was shocking to everybody. That was definitely something that had everybody buzzing. What the hell happened there? But it's also the culture. It's the culture of the company that things happen and you go on with your life and business continues. You still have your job to do and you just move forward. Put your head down and go.
I mean, that's kind of what happened with you, right?
Right.
Do you think that if there is a flaw, because you don't often kind of fault Vince with much here, do you think that is a character flaw of his, that he can just so quickly move on and throw so many years, because the Hebners have been here forever. And now, because of maybe a misunderstanding, I mean, I don't know, I wasn't there, maybe a misunderstanding, their lives are forever changed. Do you think that that's maybe a character flaw of Vince's?
I think it's a flaw, but it's also a defense mechanism for him too, because that way he doesn't have to, deal with it, and he can just move on and you're dead to me. So he just goes on and next. So I guess it's a blessing and a curse all at the same time. When you're there, nothing else. It's just, man, it's just the culture. It's just the way that it is.
Right.
And you accept it. And you accept it blindly and you move forward. So, everybody talks about Paul Heyman and the Kool-Aid. The same can be said for, the WWE. Because once you are in that bubble, that is all that exists. Life on the outside doesn't matter and doesn't exist.
Let's talk about the card again, because I feel like this is maybe the strongest year as far as the card that we've ever had for returns. You've got, in 2002, Triple H, Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and Shawn Michaels all coming back in 2002. Definitely, the biggest comeback year in history. And to this point on the roster, 15 of the 18 wrestlers would be world champions, either past, present, or future. And Shawn Michaels is still in one of the more featured matches here after, more than 4 years on the sidelines. And Triple H had come back just that prior January, so he's only been back for about 8 months. What was the expectation going into the match? Because it feels like this blows away every expectation possible.
The expectations were low.
I mean, I think that's fair. You've got two guys who haven't worked each other in a long time, no matter how good of friends they are. And yeah, Shawn was one of the greatest of all time, but after a 4.5 year hiatus, you don't expect him to come back and somehow be fucking better than before.
Well, also they had never worked together against each other.
Not like this, for sure.
Yeah, and so you've got a lot of just unknowns. We weren't, this sounds funny, but we weren't sure what the hell Shawn's body looked like. We weren't sure if when the damn shirt came off and the gear came off, what he's going to look like. So we definitely didn't know after he got in the ring and being in front of that crowd. You can go out and do all the cardio you want, do the stepper for hours at a time. That is different than being in the ring and working a match. Completely different cardio, completely different just blowing up factor. So we didn't know if Shawn was going to go out there and blow up in 10 minutes.
Sure.
We didn't know if he was going to get out there and his back was going to seize up. If he was just going to be off half a step, had no clue at all.
The angle leading up to this, who was in charge of the majority writing for that, and who was the agent for the match? Do you remember?
I want to say it was probably Michael Hayes for the match at this time. Brian would have written the majority of the storyline.
Shawn has went on record as saying he didn't feel like he got closure from how his career had ended after WrestleMania 14, where he lost to Steve Austin. And so he goes to Triple H and says he wants to wrestle one more match. And he specifically says he wants to do this because he wants his son to see him wrestle. And he asks Triple H to have the match with him. Is that the way you remember that going down, that it was important to Shawn for his son to see him wrestle, much like we heard Goldberg say earlier this year?
Yes, definitely was. His son had heard about him and had seen, tapes and different things, but he had never seen his dad wrestle.
Do you think, and I'm sure we'll cover this long form at some point, but do you think Shawn's back was as injured as we were told it was at the Royal Rumble in 98, or was Shawn just burnt out and had so much other stuff going on that he just needed to get out of the race car for a little while?
Well, I do believe that his back was injured badly, but I also think that everything else combined exacerbated that.
Right.
Exacerbated the attitude, it exacerbated the injury, and it was the right time to go away.
So it makes all the sense in the world that Shawn wants to come back here, but it also makes sense, and Triple H has said that going into this match, Shawn was scared, Shawn's wife was scared, and even Shawn's mom was scared. And Triple H says that he told Shawn's mom something like, "I won't let anything happen to your boy." That feels like a big emotional dump that you're going to have in this match. And you guys all kind of felt that you had low expectations. Do you remember that being the thought amongst the writing team, amongst Vince, amongst the boys? Or was it just more of a curiosity and just the natural assumption, man, 4.5 years off, I mean, it's not going to be the Shawn of 96.
No one expected the Shawn of 96.
Right.
And I, as I had said to Shawn when I was in San Antonio, people aren't expecting that. They're just going to be happy to see him come back, throw some punches, and by God, hit the super kick and sell. That's all he had to do. And as I expressed earlier, Shawn wanted to be Shawn Michaels of old. He had to be the showstopper in the main event. Nobody, and I mean nobody, expected what we got.
Probably one of the best comeback matches of all. Let's hit some of the high points here. The sidewalk slam onto the folding chair, the backbreaker onto the folding chair. Holy shit, what a spot that was, knowing the history of his back and the story that had been told. And how great was Triple H being bloodied and then Shawn nipping up to a big pop. The crowd was so with it. They were on that emotional roller coaster. That's when you knew, to me, this is a great match. And they're pulling out all the stops here. The elbow through the table to the floor seems a little uncharacteristic for a comeback match, but certainly, they're wanting to pull out all the stops. They do the elbow off the ladder, where beforehand Shawn points to the crowd and says, "I love each and every one of you." And then Shawn selling from that elbow and then tuning up the band was just awesome. So one of the better closing sequences, and maybe the best comeback match ever. And Shawn is teasing the super kick, but all of a sudden Triple H catches the kick rather than just taking the super kick and giving the fans their happy ending. They do a pedigree counter, and all of a sudden Shawn steals a pin. And Shawn's victorious, but Triple H attacks him after the match with a sledgehammer. What'd you think of the match? This is maybe one of the best matches of 2002. If you haven't seen it, you should go out of your way to see it. Meltzer gave it 4 3/4 stars, saying that, this is a match that lines him up for the WWE Hall of Fame, or the Observer Hall of Fame. What'd you think?
Ooh. I thought that the match top to bottom, emotionally, physically, everything about it delivered on all levels. These guys went out, they're friends, and you're always going to work best with somebody that you like. They proved it. They tore the frigging house down. And it was the right finish. It was the happy finish. But again, it was a one-off. We knew we had Hunter. We knew that what we were doing with Hunter going forward. So we had to get some heat back and make him whole at the end. It wasn't about a 50-50 thing. It was, okay, let's make him happy. But now, I got to worry about the guy that's going to be here tomorrow. And we thought, okay, hey, great. We saw, Shawn's last match. He went out in style. I don't think, well, no, I'm not going to say that because I know better. For me, I did not think that was Shawn's last match. I look at everybody. I do think we have seen Shawn's last match, but I'm skeptical. I always look at all these guys from Undertaker to Angle to everybody is like, they got another one left in them.